The anti-gravity racing genre is one that's come and gone over the years, with its most popular games being in the F-Zero and Wipeout series, and with the exception of the Wipeout HD collection, it's been a while since there's been a new mainstream installment of the zippy zoomy floaty racing games. But if you've paid attention to the world of indie games, you'll have heard of a few. There's Redout, Formula Fusion, and the newest kid on the block, Antigraviator. Taking keys from F-Zero, Wipeout, and even some of the newer titles that I mentioned, like Redout and Formula Fusion, Antigraviator puts you in the pilot seat of a customizable floating vehicle called a Grav. You'll fly this bad boy down twisting roads filled with traps as you try to zip your way into first place to earn credits and compete in higher tiers of racing comps and unlock stuff to customize your vehicle with. It's a pretty good time. So to start, I figured we should talk about the most important part of any racing game. The racing part on the tracks. Placed throughout each gorgeous track are little orange pickups that serve as a resource for either speed boosts or activating traps. Both options cost 2 pickups, and the different Gravs can hold a different amount of them to balance out their other stats. This choice between boosting to go faster or using traps to inconvenience other racers adds a little bit of depth to the earlier stages of each race and to a couple of the game modes by giving you a choice. Take a gamble and mess up those ahead of you, or rely on your skill and go faster with things being a little harder to handle. But, and this is something that a fair number of AGRs kind of have to deal with as well, after the first lap or lap and a half, you're pretty much in the position that you're gonna finish the race in, at least when racing against bots and maybe earlier on, unless you make some grievous mistake. And that's kind of where the boost trap dynamic falls apart. If you're in first place, the prompt to activate traps doesn't show up, so you can't actually do it, so you're just going to be spending all your pickups on boosting, whether you use them immediately or save them for difficult corners or for negating traps. When you're in the thick of it, nearby other cars, the only real choice is to activate a trap to disrupt the bundle around you and ahead of you so you can get past them. When it comes to the campaign that you play against bots, it's pretty easy for the first 5 cups, and then on the 6th cup, the bots are suddenly way more competent and getting into first place becomes more of a fight. These later tournaments are way more interesting, but also significantly harder out of nowhere. I feel like this difficulty increase is probably to encourage you to grind earlier cups so you can snag new parts for your car, and that kind of goes into extending gameplay and stuff like that. But it's so sudden, and while it's not something that bothers me too much, I can see this sudden spike getting on somebody's nerves and causing them to quit. In addition to drifting and stuff, you can barrel roll left or right at any time during a race. Per the tutorial, you're supposed to use this to pull away from walls and tough corners, to bump other players into walls, and also to avoid traps. The problem is, it's just not very good at it. The roll itself is just underwhelming. It barely moves you to either side at all. It doesn't pull you out of most corners, and it just doesn't push other racers. It also doesn't move you enough to get out of the way of most of the upcoming traps in time. This whole thing just needs to be tuned better, and I think it could be pretty awesome, and it's something unique that I haven't seen in a lot of other AGRs. Regardless of its placement predicaments and the dodge roll not really being super great, the real point behind single player in these kind of arcade racers, especially in AGRs honestly, is learning the tracks and the tricks that you can do on those tracks to improve your times. So I'm not really going to count this position in the race problem that Antigraviator has against it, because at the end of it, I'm still going to be playing these tracks over and over again to improve my times, and the tracks are still fun. In the world of Antigraviator, these high-speed races have become something of a cultural phenomenon. There aren't a lot of details in the lore on exactly how big this sport is, but given that these tracks are set on planets across a galaxy that have been terraformed, I think it's safe to say that this sci-fi racing variant has some pretty major influence, cause I don't know about you, but that sounds pretty expensive to me. That theme of high-cost, extravagant racing kind of rolls over into Antigraviator's progression systems. Each tournament you compete in earns you credits if you place in the top 3, and it takes a pretty penny to unlock new Gravs and parts. Not only that, but tournaments past the first have an entry fee, so there's this risk-reward system that blends with the themes that Antigraviator's playing with in the back seat. There's this emulated economy at work. You have to weigh the potential rewards of your spending, and while it's not executed perfectly, it's fun to think about the implications it all has beyond the worlds of the track. With 3 vehicles to choose from, Antigraviator has a markedly lower number of vehicles than other games in the genre. At first I thought this was a little lame, but thinking about it, I've kind of realized that this is because each vehicle has something like 9 different parts you can unlock and change out, in addition to new skins and free color customizations. In essence, they've replaced having to find your favorite vehicle among the crowd with letting you build your own over time. Instead of hopping from car to car until you find one that fits, you just make one and you call it your own. It's a different approach, but it serves the same purpose, and again, purchasing these parts and vehicles blends in with that economy system that it's kind of playing around with. Looping back around to racing, there are a couple minor hangups for local multiplayer. And yes, it has local multiplayer. 4 people sitting on a couch play together is great. It has online too, but nobody's doing it. Local players can't choose their own vehicle, let alone customize one, and they can't enter their own name. It has to be chosen from the names that you set up for the bots in the options menu, which is kind of weird and inelegant. If there were, at the very least, some kind of insight into the vehicle that each player was going to end up with, that'd be fine. But no, you just pick a name and hop in. Once you're past the kind of weird local multiplayer setup, because seriously, this UI, it's awkward to navigate with the controller, what the hell is going on here, and you're actually in a game with your friends, it's a decent amount of fun. The pickup dynamics I discussed earlier still ring true, but this time they're kind of tweaked, thanks to the fact that you have to decide if you want to mess with your pals a little bit by trapping them, or if you just want to be a tryhard, go straight for the gold and just boost, 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 boost. It's a train of thought that doesn't tend to show up in online play with strangers or against bots, making local multiplayer a bit more interesting. When it comes down to the finish line, Antigraviator is easily a game I'm happy to have join the AGR ranks. It's fun, creative enough, and it has some very interesting ideas despite a couple places where it loses its step a little bit. It may not be the best anti-grav racing game out there, but it does a damn good job. If you enjoy games like Wipeout or F-Zero, then you should check this one out. Hey, thanks for watching this video. I just want to take a quick moment to point out that I've launched a website. I did it a while ago, but I never formally announced it at the end of these videos. indie-bytes.com. I've got articles, videos, all sorts of cool stuff up there. It's really fun to browse. I think you'll like it. In addition to that, I've started a coffee page. I don't think that Patreon is for me, but if you want to donate and help out the channel and help me keep doing this, then head on over to my coffee page. Each donation is a minimum of $3, and I'm putting that towards games, potentially paying people to make articles on the website, or paying for design stuff, all sorts of stuff like that. You don't have to, but if you've ever wanted to help out, you can do that, or you can just continue sharing these videos around. That's it. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Bye!